ladies and gentlemen, to Longbox Chronicles Month here on Reaction and Review. Tonight, guys, I'm checking out a film from 2005. That movie is Fantastic Four. Now, I need to say this. Out of all of Marvel's big-name titles, out of all of the major titles that Marvel holds as like some of their proudest moments, the one I cannot stand the most is Fantastic Four. I can totally find myself getting into Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, a whole lot of the other major properties. Fantastic Four, I've never been into. Honest to God, have never been into them, and Marvel has constantly and continuously tried to push this title because it was one of their earliest titles. It has a massive legacy. And I will say that the one other time I've seen a Fantastic Four movie, it was actually at least watchable, and that was Roger Corman's Fantastic Four movie from the mid-90s. At least that was kind of fun in a cheesy, corny, stupid sort of way. And while I was interested in seeing that, I remember the ads for this movie. And I remember looking at it going, well, that's certainly a thing. But I never thought I would find myself watching it. And thanks to Reaction and Review, and thanks to one loyal viewer who sent in both films in the series, now I get my opportunity. I have no idea if this is going to be any good or not. I have my doubts, and that's mainly because of the property affixed to the film. But, as I've stated, Roger Corman has shown us that you can make a Fantastic Four movie that works. Hopefully this thing will at least be serviceable, and the only way I'm going to find out if it is if I shut up and I push play, and I'm going to do that right now. So, without further ado, it's time to kick back, relax, and check out Fantastic Four. Alright guys, I'm totally willing to say this right now. I am really digging Ben, I'm really digging Johnny. It's kind of a pity I'm not caring for any other character. The one who shocks me the most about that is Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom is one of my favorite Marvel villains of all time, and they've kind of sort of reduced him to a boring husk of nothing. I'm certainly hoping that that gets better as the film goes on. But that, honestly, guys, is the thing which shocks me the most, is they made Dr. Doom boring. I didn't even think that was fucking possible, man. Wow, so we just got to see Reed use his new stretching power. I totally understand that they had to use CG in order to make Reed's arms stretch. Would have been nice if that CG actually looked halfway decent. That looked fucking awful. Then again, Sue turning fucking invisible also looked really cheap and kind of shit. Mind you guys, I am saying that they look cheap and shitty by 2005 standards. This is fucking awful, guys. Alright, does anyone else find it just a little bit odd that our team here did one act of heroism, saved one fire truck and stopped one bridge from burning down, and now they're like the toast of New York? New York's a big, bustling, busy city. I totally understand that they're heroes for what they did. I really don't... Oh, God, and right here is Stan Lee's cameo. Anyway, back onto my point. I really don't think that this one random act of heroism would all of a sudden cause the entirety of New York City to bow down and kiss the asses of these four complete nobodies who none of them knew shit about a day ago. I guess it just sort of throws me off. It's just a little bit odd, you know what I mean? I swear, guys, every time that Reed has to stretch, it is some of the shittiest CG I ever thought I would see in a big-budget, major studio film from 2005. Holy shit, I cannot believe how piss poor that is. When almost every other effect in the film is at least passable. When Reed has to stretch, oh my God, the budget just seems to have vanished. And why exactly does Dr. Doom have the power to fuck with, like, power sockets and lights? I've been wondering that ever since the first time it happened. This is now, like, the third time. And I still don't fucking get it. It just doesn't seem right, guys. That still doesn't stop my point of, God, can we stop watching Reed stretch? Because I'm kind of sick of looking at, like, CG that would have been shit in the 90s trying to pass itself off as a superhero power. It just looks terrible, guys. You know, guys, do you want to know what would have made this movie just infinitely better? If it was 90 minutes of just the Thing. I swear to God, this movie has put a lot of effort into trying to characterize and make Ben fucking Grimm an interesting character. And you know what? They have fucking succeeded. The problem is we have to deal with the rest of this worthless, idiotic team. And worst of all, we need to deal with the bullshit fusion of Colossus and Electro that's trying to pass itself off as Dr. Doom. If we didn't have any of that, if we just had the Thing for 90 minutes, just trying to find some sort of acceptance in the world, you know what? That would have been infinitely better than the dull, boring mass of bullshit I'm sitting through right now. Just sort of thought I'd share that, guys. You know, guys, I kind of had hopes, even just the slightest hopes, that this final fight between Dr. Doom and the Fantastic Four would have been at least a little bit interesting. No, this fight has been boring as hell. But then again, that really is probably the best phrase to sum up almost everything I've seen in this movie is boring as hell. So I guess I shouldn't be shocked that our final showdown sucks this much. Well, guys, that was Fantastic Four. No. Fuck off. I saw the words "the end" on the screen. Whatever kind of post-credit bullshit you want to pull movie, too little, too fucking late. All right. So let's talk about the movie. As I said going in, I'm not the biggest fan of Fantastic Four. I'm really not. Okay? But this movie still wasn't terrible. It could have been a hell of a lot better. My God, it could have been so much better. But it wasn't completely terrible. I mean, oh God, now I have to try to explain. Alright, might as well start with writing. I will say that when it comes to the Fantastic Four, the one character I've always liked, because out of all four of them, he is the one who is the most interesting in terms of character, in terms of his own personal arc, and that is Ben Grimm, the Thing. And I'm going to tell you, this movie at least does that much right. Ben is the most interesting member of the Fantastic Four, if for no other reason than the simple fact that while Reed, Johnny, and Sue are able to walk around in public and can blend in really, really well, he can't. So he has to live with being this 7-foot mountain of rock, you know, and you see how that almost rips him. It almost rips him to pieces inside to know that he can never be normal. He can never blend in. He can't just turn off his powers like everybody else does. And it shows a lot of humanity. In fact, it shows more humanity than any other character this movie brings out. Allow me to explain. Reed, as is at least accurate with most of the comics, is a boring fucking brainiac who doesn't do anything of interest outside of just doing anything and everything possible in the realm of science to solve whatever problem is currently with them. Johnny is a hot-headed douchebag, which again, that totally fits in with the comics. And Sue is a worthless ditz who's able to turn herself invisible and create force fields. Again, totally loyal to the books. So, if anything, at least Fantastic Four is loyal to the comics. But you see, I think that is the problem. At least that's the problem for me, because I don't like the comics. So, because of that, we have a cast of characters. We have four main characters, of which only one is actually of any interest in any way to me. The other three are boring, worthless, shallow characters with literally nothing going for them. Except maybe for Johnny. Johnny at least gets a little bit more depth, but then again, that's also because he is the hothead, tough guy poser, and he at least has that going for him. And Reed and Sue are just there because they have to be there because it's a Fantastic Four movie. The movie would have benefited greatly if the two of them were never the fuck there. While I'm on the subject of interesting characters, let's touch on one of my favorite Marvel villains of all time. That is Dr. Doom. I have always loved Dr. Doom as a character. He is one of the most fascinating Marvel villains outside of Magneto. He is probably the second most fascinating and deep villain Marvel has ever cooked up. And in this movie, they turn him into a businessman whose skin is turning into metal, so basically he's a knockoff of Colossus. Oh, but he can also throw lightning, just like fucking Electro. So Fox decided to take so they opted to take an X-Man and a Spider-Man villain, merge them, and pretend it's Dr. Doom. No. Fuck you. Even, seriously, if that honestly is what they wanted to do for Dr. Doom, they could have still made the character interesting, but he doesn't have any personality. The only thing that Dr. Doom has, and again, this is at least loyal to the comics, is this long-standing, deep-seated hatred for Reed Richards. At least that's there. But even then, that honestly is barely touched on. And it's just Dr. Doom. It's just Victor Von Doom being Victor Von Doom because. And the only fucking reason why he grabs the mask, by the way, the only reason why he has the mask is because his home country of Latveria gave it to him for all of his charity work over there. Apparently they like to give out metal face masks as a way of saying thank you. So he puts on that, and beyond that, his body is slowly turning into metal. He's slowly losing his business because he's lost tons and tons of money on the accident in space that changed him as well as our titular heroes. It ultimately, guys, is just sort of a dull story. There is nothing there for him, and Dr. Doom is just there because apparently you can't have a Fantastic Four movie without having Dr. fucking Doom. Which is nothing short of tragic because you could put Dr. Doom in almost any other Marvel licensed film and he would be kicking whole hosts of ass. It would be awesome, but no. No, he's always saddled with these four fuckwits. And it's just a massive waste. Now, once more, if you are a fan of the Fantastic Four in general, then you aren't going to mind any of that. However, I do have to stress again, I'm going into this with a massive bias. I'm not a fan of this franchise. I'm still trying to figure out why the hell Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben are like the hottest thing in all of fucking New York, and everybody knows their name after doing one act of heroism. People are calling them by their superhero names even before Johnny announces them at the X Games. And even then, how many people actually waste their fucking time watching the X Games? How the hell would enough people know about that for all of New York to know who they are and what name they go by if they're walking out in public? See, guys, it seriously is that kind of lazy fucking writing that just irritated the shit out of me throughout this whole film. I sat there thinking, they saved one fire engine, and apparently that makes them the greatest human beings to ever set foot in New York City. And they all know exactly who they are, and what their powers are, and what their superhero name is. And then Johnny crashes the X Games, and then officially announces them there. Wow, just that did not make a lick of sense to me, but then again, a whole lot of this movie was just tacked on boring bullshit. Guys, there is almost zero plot to speak of in this entire film. It literally is the origin story of our four main characters and Dr. Doom, and then Reed is trying to reverse it. That's it. That's literally the entire fucking plot. There is almost no there is literally no conflict here. Outside of Victor Von Doom is pissed off because he can see his fucking billion-dollar company vanishing before his eyes. That's literally all we have for a fucking conflict, as well as the personal soap opera conflict between our four main characters, which has been a staple of the Fantastic Four comics ever since day fucking one. So again, I can't even fault them for straying away from the comic book source. That actually is shit that's in the books. Oh my god. Okay, so writing here, at least for me, was shit, but that's because it was loyal to the source. I never thought I'd bitch because something was loyal to the source, but guys, when the source material is this shitty, I would have been happier if they would have taken some fucking liberties with it. And not just taken liberties with the one interesting villain they have and completely fucking them over. So, what about the acting? I will say that the acting is really solid. The acting isn't, great. I mean, there is not a single actor here who turns in, like, a stellar, fantastic, amazing performance. But all of them at least tried, and all of them at least turned in a passable effort. So I cannot fault a single cast member. All of them did a very, very admirable job with what was given. If there's anyone who stands out in terms of acting, I think it would have to be Michael Chiklis as Ben, because he had to not only work as the only character in the film with any level of depth, but he also had to work under all of that makeup or that rubber or all of the rubber fucking appliances on his face and shit. He basically had to act through his costume, which meant that he actually had to emote more. And when you do that, when you're forced to, do that, you do have to work extremely hard to make everything work. And he totally did. Beyond him, everybody else turned in a really good showing. It's just sort of a pity that the script that they were handed was really shit. Now, special effects. I'm going to say this when it comes to special effects. Almost every special effect, amazing. Except for one. And I've touched on it already in this video. And that is Reed Richards' power. He basically has the power to stretch. That's it. So basically, when he has to reach for something, he can sit in one place and his arm can stretch like 30, 40, 50 feet, grab it, and then bring it back. So they had to do that in CG, because, of course. And the CG on Reed's arms, his hands, his body, when his body's doing the whole, melting thing, when one of his fucking experiments fails, all of that looks terrible. Guys, this movie came out in 2005, and the CG used for the entirety of Reed Richards' being would have been shit in 1995, much less 2005. And it stands out even more. It stands out in stark fucking contrast to everything else, because everything else looks great. Everything else in this movie in terms of special effects looks awesome. Alright, the very fact, guys, that we have Ben, the Thing, is made out of a big rubber fuck-off suit, and they actually would use CG in order to hide the wrinkles on the suit, as well as to also make all of the rocks that are like drawn on the suit, or like built on the suit, to actually move and flex naturally, and it looks amazing. When Johnny has to catch flame, it looks awesome. When Sue has to go invisible, the first time it looked awful, but it actually starts looking better with every passing shot of it. And then there's Reed's stretching, which looks 10 years out of date compared to everything else. It's really a goddamn shame, because guys, those shots really are the shots that ruin this entire movie. Holy fuck. I never thought, guys, that I never thought I would find a movie where I could harp on one set of special effects while praising the fuck out of everything else. But this goddamn movie has done that. This movie has given me one of the worst CG effects I've ever seen from a movie made in the 21st century by a major fuck-off studio. Alright, some of the worst CG I've ever seen under those circumstances. and it shares screen time with fantastically done effects, awesome CG, great suit work. How the fuck do they fuck up that badly? My God. Okay. I'm going to try to stop talking about CG, just like I'm going to stop talking about the writing and the shallow characters. How they fucked up Doctor Doom. I'm going to move on from all that. Lighting here is really solid. Our camera work here is really good. Our soundtrack here is fine. Our sound mix is fine. Ultimately, guys, when all is said and done, am I able to recommend Fantastic Four? Maybe if you're a fan of the Fantastic Four comics, then by all means pick it up because you will have a bias opposite of mine going into this, and you might actually be able to get a little bit more out of it. However, if you're not familiar with the Fantastic Four, I guess also try it out, because who knows, honestly, you may be totally into it. However, if you, like me, are not a big Fantastic Four fan, this thing honestly is not going to win you over in any fucking way at all. I'm going to tell you guys, this is the second Fantastic Four movie I've seen. The first one, as I stated at the start of this video, was Roger Corman's effort from the mid-90s, which was made with almost no budget at all. That thing had better writing, had better character depth, and in the case of Reed Richards, better special effects. And ultimately, it is the more enjoyable of the two films to me. I actually kind of wish that Corman's Fantastic Four movie would finally get put out on Blu-ray. I would totally fucking buy it. As for this thing, personally, there's no way that I could even pretend to recommend it unless, as I stated, you are a fan of Fantastic Four, at which point, by all means, check it out. And if you are a fan of the Fantastic Four, then you probably have already seen both this movie and its sequel. So I'm really not telling you anything that you don't already know. Now, Fantastic Four came off of the Amazon wish list. The person who sent it in was Ariel, not a girl. You can find Ariel, not a girl's YouTube channel at youtube.com/user/TVBRobotnikReturns. Dude, thank you. I was really curious about this. Even though I'm not a fan of the property this thing is based on, I still had hopes that it might have made for a rather interesting movie. Unfortunately, it didn't. However, I would not have known if you hadn't have sent it in, and for that, I do thank you. Once more, that is youtube.com/user/TVBRobotnikReturns. Now, I talked about the Roger Corman movie. Talked about Roger Corman's Fantastic Four, about how it's not currently available on Blu-ray or DVD legally. I'm going to go see if I can find it on Pirate Bay, and I'm going to give it a watch. It's probably been at least a decade since I fucking watched it. I'm going to tell you, it's probably going to be a hell of a lot better than the movie I just fucking watched. Anyway, guys, with that, we come to the close of another reaction and review. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care, and I will see you all in the near future. Peace.